Billy Clan members that portion 40 days of fashion, tuning in hand from day to day, wondering what Billy doing like. Fashion, money, stacks and stacks. Go get y'all or go y'all back. It's the 15th day. The 15th day. By now, y'all already know what the checklist is. Y'all already know what y'all have to do. Make sure y'all like, comment, share, and subscribe. And let's go ahead and get into it. So, sustainability. A topic that I hold near and dear to my heart. What is sustainability, you may ask? Well, sustainability is the act of reducing the amount of emissions and energy released by making small or large changes in practices in your daily life. For today, we're going to talk about it on a micro level. Later on, we're going to give a few examples and another video on sustainability in days to come about what we can do on both the micro and the more macro level of energy emissions. So we emit energy every day when we get in vehicles, when we get up in the morning, we use our lights and our phones and electricity and water. In some cases, and some more than others, people use a lot of it. We use a lot of these resources. And depending on your family, depending on how you operate, that's just the norm in your life, okay? And that's okay, but we need to get into the practice and get into the habit of reducing that. That starts with little things in our daily lives. The first thing we do, one of the things, most important things to do when we wake up, brush our teeth, take a bath or shower. I like to be in the shower for a minute, okay? But I have reduced my shower times, and that's something you can also do as well to help reduce how much water is being used. And you're probably like, what's that going to make a difference? Like, I'm just reducing water. That's not going to do anything. It'll help reduce the amount of stress on the water system, and it will also help you financially, because if your water bill is normally high, you can help reduce that significantly by timing your showers. Another way is in the mornings when you're brushing your teeth, using water or even washing your hands. Using water excessively and having it on for periods of time in which you're not actually using it, that can be cut down by you simply turning off the faucet. Another thing we can do is turn off the lights. Natural light during the day, and then at nighttime in the evening when the sun is down, that's when you can utilize your lights. Or if you want to, get some lamps or some candles, something similar to that. Or if you need to, you can use your electricity. And that's the same thing with it when it comes to energy conservation. You're saving money on electricity, and you're also reducing carbon emissions. Carbon emissions are released when mechanical operations and machines are in use. And sometimes combustions, especially, they release a lot of carbon. And speaking of combustion, that leads me to my third factor thing that we could change in our daily life. That is our mode of transportation. Most people have vehicles, some people do not. And some who do, they either carpool or they go with public transportation. To reduce the amount of emissions that we emit ourselves, we can utilize public transportation. We could carpool. But sometimes, like I said, that goes back to the water and the electricity situation. Everybody's lifestyle is different. So in some cases, you need to have your own vehicle just for convenience. Understandable. But if you can't help it and that does not apply to you and you can afford to make that change, consider using public transportation. That way you reduce the amount of emissions you release, and the only emissions that are being released are from the vehicle that you use for transportation. You can also ride your bicycle or by purchasing LED plugs or energy saving plugs. LEDs are really good on energy saving, and you can use them as your replacement for your lights. Instead of you using your electricity, like your light switches and everything, get you some LED plugs, use those. You'll also save on money as well. Another thing we could do to reduce clutter is to discard things that we don't need. We keep a lot of things that just do not need to be in our possession. They should have been gone. And in order to help with that, we can discard it. It doesn't always have to go to the trash. If it has value, you could just give it away. And that goes into my next point. I'm talking about giveaways. If you have a lot of things, like I said, a lot of valuables, you don't use them, haven't seen them in a long time, haven't used them in a long time, you can give them away to somebody. Give them away to family members, friends of family, co-workers, whatever you have to do. Or if you want to make a quick buck, you can sell the items, whatever works for you, whatever you want to do, depending on how much clutter you have and what you have exactly. Another thing that's really important, especially when it comes to going to grocery stores, is buying exactly what you will eat. Now, I want to touch a little bit more on this. Oftentimes, we find ourselves going to the store, and some of us have lists and budgets. Sometimes we don't. It just depends on how your family operates. So if you have a list, sometimes we go over the budget. Sometimes we get things that are not on the list. And that also ties into your finances. You're spending more than you should have. You had a budget of $200. You went to the store and spent $230. That's $30 extra that could have went to something else. Buying exactly what you're going to eat helps you to save money, and it helps you to save resources. Oftentimes, we buy things. Sometimes we eat it. Sometimes we forget about it. It goes bad. We have to throw it out. We're wasting money. We're wasting resources. And we're increasing waste. And waste accumulation is bad for the environment, as you know. So if you are on a diet, want to go on a diet, just want to eat cleaner, want to eat healthier, and actually get well-portioned meals, buying exactly what you want to eat and what you will eat with certainty helps you with that. Speaking of finances, saving your money or saving most of your money, after you spent it on what you know that you're going to need for like that week or that month, depending on how your family is set up, depending on how you set up your finances, it will help you save money and save on resources. Back to electricity and utilities and water. When you use less of the water and electricity, you save money. You save energy. That's less energy that is being used, and that's less carbon that is being emitted, because it takes power to fuel those faucets and electricity. And oftentimes, most likely, carbon is being emitted. Now, when these gases are emitted into the environment, it forms like a blanket in the atmosphere. And that blanket, it stops the sun UV rays from reflecting back into space. When the earth is heated to an excessive amount, then glaciers and ice will start to melt, causing the rises in sea level, as we can see now more prominent in the last decades. That is an issue because it can cause places that normally do not flood to flood. It can dislocate members of habitats in the area, and it can also dislocate humans. If there's mostly areas where they're flooded, we cannot live there, of course, unless we build the buildings and homes specifically to help us mitigate with those high sea levels. When the earth is too hot, it can also have adverse effects on living organisms like us. If it's too hot, some people can have heat strokes if their AC is out. If they're trying to reduce their AC usage, well, I know sometimes, especially like during the summer, it's going to be a hard time once you're doing that. Okay, that's cool. That's fine. And that won't be possible for you to not have your AC running. Okay, but there are other things that you can do to save on electricity and water. When it comes to energy and saving it, we need to make sure that all the energy that we use is going to a reasonable purpose. We don't want to use too much of it, but in some cases we also don't want to use too little of it, because some appliances require us to run them in order for it to be upkept, i.e. the refrigerator. And the last point, which we kind of touched bases on with the other ones, was to buy what you use. This goes not only with food, but it also goes with things that you do with leisure. If you go to Target, if you go to Walmart, if you go to Sam's, Lowe's, Home Depot, things like that, if you go there, buy exactly what you're going to use. If you're not going to use it, it's going to sit there, it's going to go to waste, do not buy it. You can put that money towards something else, something much more important, instead of making impulsive purchases and over-consuming. And that is another issue with the world as a whole. Overconsumption. Overconsumption is good for the companies. Okay, they're getting money, they're getting revenue. But it's also bad for the environment, ultimately. Because if you look at it, you make a purchase here, you actually look at what you're going to use. It's sitting there. It's going bad. You discard it. Once you discard it, you're taking it to landfills. Those landfills accumulate, and the runoff from rain goes to nearby fields. And on those fields are the produce that we consume and the animals that you consume if you consume them. Not to mention, the same runoff can go into nearby water bodies, oceans, lakes, etc. And when those bodies and those fields get contaminated, that ultimately affects us. It affects the organisms nearby. It affects the organisms in the environment. And then when those organisms pass away or are caught to be consumed by humans, whatever is wrong with them becomes wrong with us. What is like that's like mercury. Mercury runoff into the water, just like that situation that happened in Japan years ago. When too much mercury entered the environment, the marine environment, people consumed the fish, they got sick. The same thing can happen when different chemicals and substances sit too long and they run off into these bodies of water and fields. That's why it's necessary to make sure that we are discarding our stuff properly. Lithium batteries, they do not go into the regular trash bins. They have to be discarded in a special manner. With that being said, I hope this video informed y'all a little bit about sustainability. It touched the basis on sustainability. Like I said, in days to come, we will touch more on it. But for now, these are some ways that we can implement it into our daily lives to make sure we're making better purchases, to make sure we're doing better for the environment and for us. If y'all like this video, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see y'all tomorrow on day 16.